Okay.
And also share the presentation that I sent you so that Emily can kind of use that as she's starting. So we have a student MC tonight, and that is Emily Parker. She's going to get us started. Thanks, Emily.
Am I good to go?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Good evening, everyone. Thank you for coming, and a special thanks to the speakers that will all be speaking this evening. This Spark Talk is hosted by SJA, which is the Social Justice Alliance Club here at Quakertown, where a group of students and Mrs. Lee and Mrs. Fuller are the teachers who help run the club. Tonight's Spark Talk is Black History Month, and a little brief history about Black History Month is it was created in 1926 by the US, but it wasn't officially recognized until 1967 by former President Gerald Ford. And a quote from him on why he officially recognized it is, "Seize the opportunity to honor the too often neglected accomplishments of Black Americans in every area of endeavor throughout our history." And about tonight's Spark Talk, there are no question or answers, so we'll let the speakers do all the talking, and there will be a feedback survey at the end. And a little disclaimer is that all of the words of the speakers are their own, and they do not necessarily reflect the philosophies of the school district or the community. And there is a timekeeper, Yaren Yun, who will be typing in the chat box just so all the speakers are aware, just to keep a track on how much time you have left. And a little schedule rundown of tonight is at 7 o'clock, which is now. There's an introduction. At 7:05, Speaker 1, Chad Evans, who is a QCSD curriculum coordinator, will be speaking. At 7:10, Speaker 2, David Rocha, is a QCHS teacher. And at 7:15, Speaker 3, Forrest Evans, who's a research librarian from Atlanta, will be speaking. And at 7:20, Speaker 4, Sheikh Anwar Muhammad, I'm so sorry if I butchered your name, is a Black reserve bookstore owner in Lansdale. And at 7:25, there will be a conclusion. So if Chad Evans, you want to start talking, you can take it away.
You got it. Thank you so much for the opportunity. And I'm going to do my best to certainly stick to the time here. So I really like to think about curriculum through the lens of questions. And so I think the question that I wanted to ask tonight and explore with you is, how do we intentionally embrace a more diverse and representative curriculum? Just quickly about myself, I was an 8th grade social studies teacher for 12 years and currently serve as a curriculum supervisor with a focus on social studies, world languages, etc. So to me, the first thing I wanted to talk about is, what is curriculum? So curriculum is what we want our learners to know and be able to do, and the knowledge, skills, mindsets, and dispositions of learning. And I think there's some really interesting questions about curriculum, which are that what role should learners themselves have in the curriculum? Is there a focus on questions rather than answers? Is there a focus on coverage as opposed to uncoverage? And what role does inquiry and curiosity play in our design? And when you think about, when you think about the past here, I think it's important for us to be seeking diverse and multiple perspectives. And one of my favorite parts of American history is going back to the colonial era. And this image here is an image that portrays Jamestown. And a lot of people believe that that is the birth of American history. And we know that there's a very rich and diverse history that travels even further back. We know that there were African visitors much earlier. We know that the native populations, the indigenous people, were here prior. And I think that we tend to only focus on the kind of basic and generic questions. And one of my favorite questions about that era is, why is it that many early North American settlements fail or struggle until women arrive? The men come and they're busy doing their thing, and they really fail to thrive. And it's when the ladies arrive where you start to get kind of a stronger, firmer grip on those settlements. And with those settlements bring a ton of amazing questions about the impact on the indigenous cultures that were here. Another thing that I wanted to just share a little bit was this question around accounting for nuance and complexity. So this guy, Thomas Jefferson, our 3rd president, when you look at the list of things there, he is all of those things. He wrote some of the most famous words in American history, and all men are created equal, while owning over 600 people in his lifetime. We know that he fathered several children with one of his slaves. We know that at times during his career, he advocated for the elimination of slavery. And he also, during his presidency, eliminated the slave trade. But again, all of this within the context of him personally owning 600 people. And I think that one of my favorite moments or quotes from him is from a letter he writes around the time of the Missouri Compromise, when the country is starting to really unravel under the weight of slavery and its impact. And he says, in the quote, "We have the wolf by the ear, and we can neither hold him nor safely let him go. Justice is on one scale, self-preservation in the other." And so Jefferson acknowledges at that point in his career that he knows that slavery is one of the most unjust things, but he just feels like he's incapable of letting it go. I think another question that I want to ask is, how do we intentionally seek to understand the impact of non-dominant histories as equally valuable and part of the fabric of our collective history? And so for me, I have to acknowledge that the Tulsa race riots, the Zoot Suit riots, the Stonewall riots are a part not just of our collective history, but of my history as well. And if we're not intentionally seeking to understand the impact of those histories, we're missing significant moments. There are a bunch of questions here that I wanted to share with you, which allow us to ask questions about the resources that we use in social studies classrooms, focusing on perspectives and bias. Again, I don't have enough time to go through all of these, but I always believe that it begins with questions. And the last thing that I'll leave you with here are, again, what I see as really critical for our work in history to not just access Black history, but all of our non-dominant and non-traditional histories, which is we must be intentional, purposeful, and deliberate. We've got to focus on questions, not on having the right answers. We have to embrace those new and different perspectives and the varied resources. We've got to make space for wondering, curiosity, and depth of understanding. We've got to focus on nuance and complexities. We've got to seek connection both with the past and recognize the interconnectedness that we all have. And we've got to increase our learner voice and choice. So that's got to come from students as well as the curriculum and teachers. Thanks so much.
Thank you so much, Mr. Evans. David Rocha, if you would like to go next.
Yes, absolutely. Wow, that's kind of scary that the 5 minutes just kind of zoomed by that fast. So I'm going to try to condense as much of this as I can. But I want to kind of piggyback off of that whole interconnectedness thing and talk about something that doesn't typically show up in a lot of conversations about Black History Month. And that is the struggle in other countries that are predominantly Black. Particularly of interest for me is Haiti right now, that is going through a few different things. So some of you might ask, why Haiti? What does that have to do with Quaker Town community, right? Well, to put it quite succinctly, there's a quote here from Martin Luther King Jr. from his letter from Birmingham jail, 1963, where he says, "Injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere. We are caught in an inescapable network of mutuality, tied in a single garment of destiny. Whatever affects one directly affects all indirectly." And I choose Haiti because in the spirit of Black History Month, it is a pretty big deal. It's the first modern state to abolish slavery, the first state in the world to become a successful revolt of lower classes. So it was a slave rebellion, right? It's the first independent nation of the Caribbean, first Black republic in the world, and the second republic in the Western Hemisphere after the US by a difference of like 28 years. So it's very important to our understanding of Black History Month and the struggle for Black liberation. And in particular, I wanted to get into a little bit of the history of like US relations in Haiti and how it's kind of a predatory relationship at times. To get into the full history, obviously, I won't be able to cover all of that tonight, but the important thing about this is that you know, racism kind of tinges how we interact with other countries at times. And at its most extreme, I guess, manifestation, you have the wanton use of violence to further US policy goals. And how we act abroad as a nation is a reflection of our own domestic values. So paying a vigilant eye to how state violence is used beyond our borders, as well as in our communities, is very important to helping understand the situation that we have here today. Because unfortunately, Black and brown bodies are just devalued everywhere. And we kind of spread that. And that's both in the global economy and any foreign policy calculation. So Our alliances cannot simply just be regional or local. We have to understand our neighbors who are also victims of the same institutional oppression, right? And these perpetrators are kind of conveniently kept out of public discourse. It's just things that don't pop up on the news as often, right? Some people can't even point out Haiti on a map, despite all the importance of the country. So the biggest thing right now is, oh, 1 minute already. We have right now in the month of February a huge spike in deportations during the Biden administration, who promised to put a 100-day moratorium on deportations for people with immigrant visas. Now, as claiming to be one of the most progressive administrations in history, and having a Black female president in position of power, we would expect that he would keep his promise on his promises to Haitian communities in particular that are currently being detained at the border, waiting to hear their cases to be allowed to stay in the country. However, I think February 11th alone, we have about 300 people that were deported, and that number just keeps increasing. There was 11 flights just in this month of February alone. The record under the Trump administration is, time's up, 12. Point is, they're being sent back to a very dangerous situation. I would get more into that, but my time is up for now. Just want to let you guys know, TLDR version, bite size. Foreign policy is important to how we act here at home. So I encourage you to look up Haiti's history and familiarize yourself with.
Thank you so much, Mr. Rocha. That was some very needed information. The floor is yours.
Hi, you guys. I'm Forrest Evans. I'm one of the reference librarians at the Auburn Avenue Research Library. This is a special research library, one of few in the country solely dedicated to African-American culture, history, and literature. So it's Black History Month each day at my library. And not only is it important to access, utilize, and to circulate history, but to preserve it. Knowing the past truly opens the door to the future. And not only is Black History Month a great opportunity to jumpstart, but to continue your research, the dialogue about these gracious community, but to remember that the Black experience is a collective narrative. Black and Brown experience from around the world complete this cultural and beautifully woven narrative. And not only should you utilize neutral learning environments like a library or a museum, but to explore, and I encourage you to locate independently owned bookstores. There are over 10,000 bookstores that are owned independently in brick and mortars across the country, but there are only 125, 126 that are owned by people of color, which represents a 1% of that demographic. So it's important not only to utilize literature as a resource and a fulcrum. And when I say a fulcrum, my friends, you're all my friends now, a fulcrum provides you a balance and wealth of information. And that's what Black literature can do. It allows you access to these cultural narratives and to understand certain experiences, and also to become familiar. And not only are you taking not a walk through them, but you're obtaining not only a collection of narratives. Remember, these narratives are not monolithic. These are individualities that are being expressed through their artistic expressions and investment of themselves. And when you read, remember, it takes you anywhere. You can explore not only your interests, your weakness, and your strengths, but allow your interests and your strengths to guide you through your research. And not only in a public library can you obtain these beautiful skills that you can utilize in school, but I encourage you to utilize your school library to understand what's around you. A library's collection reflects its community. And it's important to raise your concerns when you don't see things on the shelves that reflect not only your interests, but your community. It's important to include not only queer people of color literature, but other intersections that reflect beautiful areas and identities. So remember, not only Muslim identities, Muslim children's literature, we see next month is Women's History Month. So I'm just excited to see not only what your library, what your school will do, but my library as well, and other community centers and resources, such as what Mr. Muhammad will speak about later with his beautiful, organization and library, or excuse me, bookstore. But remember, these are areas in your environment. These are pillars in your community to utilize, but also become a part of them by participating and verbalizing your concern when you see something on the shelves or when you want to see something on the shelves. And okay, I have 2 more minutes. Now, let me get into why I love Black history. Now, Black history is not only a great resource, as I previously mentioned. Oh no, I have 1 minute. Friends! All right, friends, if you don't take anything else from me, remember, knowing the past opens the door to the future, and it's important to continue reading. And I encourage you to not only enjoy your reading and your research, but to continue reading because it will take you places, and to prioritize your mental health. Because some of the things that you will discover, they may not be as positive, but remember, progress is not linear, but each step is essential to moving us forward in a better way. And that Black history is also American history. And it's important to continue its exploration each day, not only throughout Black History Month, but every day of the year. And thank you guys for having me. Welcome from Georgia. I'm not sure what kind of weather you're having, but we send you love, peace, and all the blessings.
Thank you so much. That was so inspirational.
Thank you. True love and joy comes from within. So it's all about the love that you give yourself first. So I hope that's what you see. And I encourage you to love.
Thank you. Speaking. Shaka Anwar Muhammad, you're up next.
Greetings. Oh, so hard to follow such wonderful speakers. My name is Sheikh Anwar Muhammad. I am the proprietor of the Black Reserve Bookstore, and I am the Black Panther of Lansdale. Greetings to you all. It is an honor to be here. Thank you for the invitation. I must state from the onset that there are 2 ways to get into a pool, right? You can sit on the side, you can stick your toe in, sprinkle some water on you, or you do like I do and you cannonball. I'm a cannonballer. So I must warn you, if you've never had contact with somebody like myself or myself, that some people are a little country, I'm a little rock and roll. So buckle up for safety. So now, Black History Month, such a broad topic, such a wonderful topic. And if you have not noticed, I have been Black for a few days. So I'm excited to talk about something as wonderful as Black history. Now, I must state that I am not a fan of Black History Month. Oh my goodness, because I am not just cool in February. If you think I'm cool in February, you should see me in March. If you see me in March, you should really see me in the summertime, because that's when my melanin really gets to popping, in the summertime. So we're cool 24/7, 365. Now, there is no such thing as Black history. No, there is not. Is there a Black reading? No. Is there Black social studies? No. Is there Black science? No. So why Black history? There is history, and there are things that are not history. I'm a fan of history because, like Mr. Evans and Mrs. Evans and Mr. Rocha, did I say it right? Like they stated, it's all synonymous. It's all together. If we pick a date, any date in the history of the world, there's a lot of wonderful things that happen all over the planet, not just in Europe, not just in America, right? It's everywhere. History is marvelous. Now, in a relationship, the reason why I believe we have so many social issues between races in the country is because in any relationship, for that relationship to bloom and blossom and to be amazing and to thrive, it takes a mutual exchange of information. Notice I use the word mutual, meaning you talk, I listen attentively. Then you be quiet and I talk and you listen attentively. Then I say, man, let me tell you some cool things about myself. And then you say, oh, I'm going to tell you some cool things about me, right? Now, this journey of the Black Reserve Bookstore, like she stated, there are not a lot of Black bookstores in the country. I don't even like using the term Black bookstore. I am a bookstore that specializes in Black literature. So I narrowed your search down. Now, Black people write a variety of wonderful things. We write about everything. We write about unicorns, fiction, nonfiction, science, like everything. If you have not been to the store affectionately known as Wakanda, the Black Reserve Bookstore, it is your fault. You are behind. As a matter of fact, I'm having an event on Sunday, 12 to 5. It's called the Re-Up. We are giving out school supplies, book bags filled with school supplies, water bottles. There'll be food. They'll be giving out groceries. And this not in name of Black History Month. It's just in the name of being absolutely amazing. And like I said, by day, I'm a mild-mannered bookstore owner. At night, I fight crime as the Black Panther of Lansdale. Don't you ever forget it. Now, I've introduced myself to you. Everyone knows who I am. Do not be a stranger. And listen, you have to broaden your horizons. Broaden your horizons. You see how amazing I am? Have you ever, ever met a unicorn? No. Have you ever met a Black unicorn? You're welcome.
Thank you.
That's a mic drop. That's the mic drop right there.
That was a mic drop.
Thanks for having me. I look forward to future interactions with you all.
Yes, indeed.
And I beat the clock. Tell me I beat the clock. I beat the clock.
You did.
Thank you for the invitation, Ms. Fuller. Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate you.
Thank you so much for coming, Sheikh.
Absolutely.
Thank you for all the speakers that spoke today. Very inspirational speeches from everyone, and a little closing. So thank you to Riley Mann for making the slideshow for today. Thank you for Yurin Yun for being the timekeeper. A special thank you to the administrators for the support and the advertising of the Spark Talk today. Special thank you also to Mrs. Lee and Mrs. Fuller, who are the teachers that help run SJA, and they helped us create this whole thing tonight. And also thank you to the audience who came and listened to everyone tonight. I really hope you guys got something out of it. It could be anything different for everyone. Also, SJA is accepting new members, so you can contact Mrs. Lee or Mrs. Fuller to find out more information. There will be a Google form for feedback about tonight. And yeah, I think that's it. Thank you again for everyone coming. Have a wonderful evening.
Thank you.
Thank you.